Warning: the following video contains explicit language which may be offensive to some viewers or inappropriate for children. The content within this video is intended for mature audiences only.
Warning: this video may contain explicit descriptions of drug use, violence, and sexual situations. Viewer discretion is advised as this content may not be suitable for all audiences.
Hello and welcome to this video. I hope everyone's doing well. Today we are going back into the Kingdom of Fear with one Hunter S. Thompson. I hope everyone's enjoying this series so far. And without further ado, let's get into it.
Now, with the September stars twinkling overhead, he is trying judiciously to explain the exact nature of the fear and loathing that have crept into the lush, quiet valley of Woody Creek, where he has made his home for the past 2 decades. I ran for sheriff in Aspen years ago to try to stop the greed heads from ruining...
Yeah. This is a pretty good section here. This is a pretty, kind of just a generic recap. Then we get into some pretty juicy stuff.
The place, Thompson says in his singular stop-start mumbling cadence. Now, they're trying to move on me right here where I live. Indeed, land developers, the final plague of all paradises lost, have pretty much overwhelmed the once funky mountain town.
That's kind of happening here, or yeah, kind of here in Walker County. They're tearing up a whole bunch of really beautiful forest and Greenland and stuff like that for apartment complexes for college kids. The here today, gone tomorrow. How badly can we extort their mommy and daddies clientele in blood of the city, and it's quite literally bleeding people dry. So they leave once they graduate college.
And now the developers are reaching down valley to Thompson's own pastoral backyard, disrupting his life and work and bringing him quixotically to center stage in a drama that the more sentimental locals have taken to calling the last battle in the lost war for the soul of Aspen.
Which, you know, from everything we've learned so far, that it's a pretty appropriate title.
That's why Thompson has become embroiled in a bitter dispute, nay, a modern-day range war, with a newcomer named Floyd Watkins, who, for Thompson, embodies all that is evil in Aspen.
Probably evil in land development.
A rich man with a dubious past and the habit of getting his way, Watkins moved upstream of Hunter's house 4 years ago like a bad omen. Nothing has been the same since. Until then, Woody Creek was in a western time warp, a valley of blue-collar bartenders and construction workers.
And, well, Huntsville has a really dubious place concerning things of that nature.
A couple of aging hippies and one famous writer. It was a place where locals prided themselves on their rural individualism, their isolation from increasingly ostentatious Aspen, and their unpaved roads and rough-hewn log houses.
And it makes you wonder how much of a description like that was paramount in the opening of Transmetropolitan by Ellis Wyatt. It's a good comic, by the way. It's kind of a Hunter S. Thompson of the future comic story. It's very adult. Like I said, I wonder how much of descriptions like this affected how he opened the story.
The community center was a log post office, and the adjoining Woody Creek Tavern, a smoky bar where cowboys and construction workers played pool, gambled on ball games, and occasionally brawled. Thompson used the tavern as a kind of office, a semi-public haven for his eccentricities.
Yeah, I kind of do that sometimes when I want to flesh out ideas for different videos that I do. There's a little coffee shop in town that I like to go to and just sit and pound away on the laptop and listen to the people, listen to what's going on, occasionally engage in conversation.
Taking calls, meeting people who flew in to see him on business, he set a hilarious outlaw tone that his neighbors sympathized with immediately. He was a lot of fun, even if he did set off the occasional smoke bomb and raise his voice from time to time.
Yeah. I can completely sympathize with that.
It was a real Western. In a valley where individualism and personal freedom are the reigning ideology, Floyd Watkins should have a lot of friends. He is the type of person who at one point made the West what it is. A self-made man who had amassed millions in Florida and California in the heady world of high-level bill collecting. His company, which he sold for millions in 1985, was called Transworld Systems.
Which, I think I've heard of them. I may be confusing with something else with Transworld in it. In the 80s and 90s, that Trans-American, trans this, trans that, was a real popular thing in businesses, so there's no telling.
Watkins came here expecting the respect he enjoyed in his Miami home. To that end, he set out to build a multi-million-dollar estate that would rival those that have turned Aspen into an alpine Palm Springs over the past decade. But in fact, Watkins's insensitivity to the traditions of the Old West in general and to the etiquette of Woody Creek in particular could not help but offend.
Yeah, and unfortunately, that is real common.
He surrounded his spread with intimidating urban chain-link fences, built a massive rock and concrete gateway, laid tons of cement on his driveways, and began pushing to have the Woody Creek Road paved to keep the dust out of his parlors. Worse, in a land where water is valued as much as gold, Watkins ran bulldozers through stream beds that his downstream neighbors used to water their cattle and fields and rerouted the creek through his front lawn. He planned to build artificial trout ponds.
Yeah, though I don't think Colorado really has the climate for trout. It might, I don't know. Maybe I would think it would get a little too cold in the winter.
In defiance of official county disapproval, that he would turn into a commercial fishing camp. Thompson later fictionalized these developments in his weekly column in the San Francisco Examiner, suggesting that nothing short of a Hatfield and McCoy feud was about to engulf the valley.
And I believe, if I remember correctly, it did. It got like super crazy out there for a while.
It was an adolescent act of common vandalism that brought matters to a head. As Floyd Watkins later told the story, his work crews had hardly finished pouring a new driveway at his Beaver Run ranch when someone unseen and unknown inscribed, "Fuck you, prick," on his black-tinted concrete, and an anonymous telephone call warned him, "No more concrete is going to be poured in Woody Creek."
Yeah, I honestly don't think Thompson may have actually done it himself. He may have had a hand in getting it done, but I don't think he may have actually done it himself. But, that's speculation.
Watkins said it was the final straw, coming as it did after a series of other incidents that he claimed ranged from an attempted poisoning of his dog, the shooting out of his nightlights, the sawing down of a Beaver Run Ranch sign on the main road, and the scrawling of graffiti on his imposing rock gateway labeling the place Fat Floyd's Trout Farm.
You gotta love that. Like I said, my personal opinion is, yeah, Thompson may have done some of that, but I guarantee Thompson had a whole hell of a lot of sympathizers that may have been inspired by his actions.
I called the sheriff's office to complain, but they said they had only 2 deputies on duty and couldn't send anyone up here, Watkins said when I visited him to hear his side of the dispute. I told the sheriff then and there that I was going to take care of things myself. The first...
Probably not the best of choices in one's life.
sign that Watkins had gone on the warpath came that evening, when Gaylord Gannon, an amiable former journalist who runs the Woody Creek Tavern, was driving to his home, 2 miles up the creek beyond the Beaver Run Ranch. Watkins chased down Gannon's pickup and forced him to pull over. He was furious and fuming and threatening, Gannon recalls. Even if you have money, if you're an outsider, it doesn't bode well to start fucking with the locals. He talked about having Uzis and infrared scopes at his home and his ability to take care of people and be 3,000 miles away when it happened. It was clear that I had been chosen to deliver a message.
Uh-oh. Yeah, messages getting delivered in these manners are never good.
Still shaken when he got home, Gannon called the tavern and warned everyone that Watkins was on a tear. What no one knew, of course, was that Watkins had decided to spend the night well-armed in his car near his endangered driveway. Watkins recalls some 15 or 20 cars driving up the road that night, all honking and jeering as they passed his hidden 4-wheel drive. Around 4 a.m. he fell asleep. Then, at about 4:30, I heard 5 blasts of a shotgun.
Yeah, I imagine that 4:30 in the morning, shotguns going off when you're laying in a car sleeping. Yeah, I think that would shake you up a little bit.
At first I thought Roberto, my foreman, had shot a coon by the shed where I keep some ducks, and I started to go over there when there were about 20 shots from an automatic weapon of some kind, then 6 shots from a pistol. I realized the shots came from down the road. I saw car lights from either a Jeep Cherokee or a Wagoneer. I started after them, and there was a high-speed chase in the dark.
That's never good, especially on country roads. I imagine that part of Colorado is probably kind of like any rural part of the country. A lot of the roads are twisty and turny and windy.
3 miles down the road, the escaping vehicle slowed down and turned into the Flying Dog Ranch, owned by George Stranahan, a respected physicist turned cattle rancher who also owns the tavern and is the valley's most influential citizen. He is a very old friend of Thompson's.
Yeah. Like I said, friends, when friends, and you're the outsider, it can get pretty rough pretty fast.
There were 2 people in the car, according to Watkins, and one, a girl, ran up to Stranahan's house while the other started to get out on the driver's side. I had these spotlights on the car, Watkins says. I turned them on and saw Hunter Thompson. I said, "What the fuck do you think you're doing, Hunter?" And he came up to me, jabbed me in the chest, and said, "You have been given a warning. There is to be no trout operation or any more concrete poured in Woody Creek."
And you don't get too much clearer than that.
The official version that Thompson later gave to the Aspen Times-Daily from my kitchen telephone was somewhat different. Thompson denied that he was firing at Watkins or his house or delivering any personal warning. He said instead that he was heading up to Watkins's ranch when he came face to face with a giant porcupine. "Don't laugh," Hunter told the reporter Dave Price. "Look at Jimmy Carter. He was attacked by a killer swamp rabbit and had to beat it off with his oar. I was attacked by this huge porcupine. I stopped to look at it and it attacked me."
Yeah. The thing is, porcupines don't have the best disposition. If you do any kind of real research into them, they don't have a real good, they're not people pets, I should say.
So I blasted it. The porcupine, alas, was never found. That there was a confrontation with Watkins in the driveway of Stranahan's Flying Dog Ranch is not in dispute. Thompson maintains, however, that he was the master of diplomacy, telling Watkins that he, Hunter, was his only friend.
Yeah, I imagine there's a little bit of exaggeration on both parts, on both people's side of the story, and the truth is somewhere in the middle.
I even offered him my last beer and invited him to come down to my place later in the day to watch the ball game. But Watkins went home, called Sheriff Bob Broaddus, and demanded that Thompson be prosecuted for what Hunter later said was everything from the Manson family killings to shooting his mules.
Well, yeah, it is. People are going to be people. And with that, we'll go ahead and call this video good. And until next time, be a good human. Be good to other humans. Peace.
Hey, it's 10 p.m. Do you know where your children are?